Hi guys, Zin here. Welcome to a brand new Let's Play. This time, well, it's a game I've done years back and was kind of known as a cursed Let's Play back then, but now I'm playing its somewhat sequel. It's more like an upgrade. It's RC Revenge Pro on the PS2. It's essentially RC Revenge, but with a bonus world and some updated graphics and kind of different differences in, like, physics, I guess you can say. And I do mean physics, like, essentially things aren't going to play the same as the PS1 version at all, really. The feel and the tactics used here are going to be very different in a sense, so get ready for that. But the main thing is that, for the most part, you are getting a lot of the same stuff. I will also say I think the times here have also changed compared to the original times, so that's fun. But yeah, we have new tracks such as, you know, Cutthroat Island, Uncut, as well as Piles Up the High Seas, The Legacy, you know, all that stuff. And yeah, we have all of our usual cars, which you can get some better look and details of now. They're still kind of low quality, there's a bit of a shine to them and what have you. But yeah, for the most part, as you can see, there are stats around here, and on the PS1 version, these stats actually meant something. They do not mean shit now. If you see a vehicle that has very high speed and what have you, more than likely it fucking sucks now in the PS2 version. Big Mama is going to be our vehicle no matter what, however. Also, this track added a level, which you get some of these animated little bits here, which are a little bit better looking, I guess. They're pretty neat. Kind of goofy. You know, Planet Adventure, Jungle World with the Tribe people. We have AKLM Studios, Acclaim Studios. Monster World shows back up. And of course, we have the new one, Pirate World. Pirate World is essentially a brand new one that exists only in the PS2 version. And we're definitely going to end up doing that shit when it comes to Championship mode. Because now, we don't have just, you know, Trials in the Crypt and what have you when it comes to our levels. We also, unfortunately, do indeed have the fucking, you know, the pirate stuff to show up as well. Because we have an extra track to deal with now. But yeah, as you can kind of hear, we have the music changing every time we go into one of these worlds. And for the most part, we're going to go through every single track, including their reverse counterparts in the championships. And we are also doing all the time trials, of which I am properly going to try speedrunning that shit. As you might have seen some months back, I have been doing speedruns of RC Revenge on PS1, and I even got some records out of it. However, we're also in the PS2 version, so for the most part, I was kind of practicing for the most part for this shit. But yeah, Pirate World, Cutthroat Island. Also, there's a little tropical music going on. Piles Up the High Seas, all of this shit, all of it new, and all of it's going to be interesting. But we will get to all of it pretty much after we go through our usual stuff with the first competition. Which is, of course, the bronze competition, the Bronze Cup. Let's go. Yep, do the Big Mama. Because all the other vehicles kind of suck. Also, in the PS1 version, you would get a little result thing here, let you know of all the vehicles you're versing against and such. PS2 version, you just get this little FMV of a car driving around, which I believe there's a whole bunch of FMVs, different cars driving around, but yeah, this is one of them. And it's always the same kind of path they go through. So, to start things off, we have essentially the space area, which, to start things off, already things are going a bit different because now they have curved the area a bit. As you can see, there's a bit more curvature going on this level, which means it's a bit harder for us to make some more tighter turns because that curvature can easily fuck us around because, too, the turning is both a bit more sharper but also a bit more looser. We can, you know, it takes a bit more to turn, you know, because it's a bit more tighter. It requires a bit more effort to turn, like normally. But at the same time, if you were to bump into anything for the most part, even a little fucking hill, you will just turn immediately sometime. And there are even moments where the game can just choose to just very much just quickly make you turn for no good reason, and you lose control because of that. It's not really easy to figure out and get used to. You just kind of have to get used to it. And that's becoming a point when it comes to later on with some of the more harder things to deal with. But yeah, for the most part, as you can see, pretty basic shit, honestly. Also, they've now put like power-ups on the walls in this level, which, I mean, you can grab those, you can reach for them. It's just, why would you? They are so far high up, you need to actually just go straight up for them. And if you do that, you're screwing yourself over, so ignore them. But yeah, now I have to do things like slowing down to get around the corners, because you got all these bumps around the place, you got the whole turning problem ongoing. And of course, the shortcut here, which does suck in the PS1 version, sucks a bit more in the PS2 version. And what also is interesting is the fact that there is no one great car. I say this because there is a little bit of a fucking caveat when it comes to essentially certain levels, I will say that much on. Because there were cars in the PS1 version which were so overpowered with this sort of type that I'm guessing Acclaim like thought, okay, this is too much, too overpowered, it's not fun to deal with. What we're gonna do here is we're going to get rid of it. We're gonna take it, we're gonna just strip it the fuck down, and we're going to make shit a little worse. And make shit a little worse they did, because now there is a certain vehicle that, while still kind of useful in regards to, you know, normal racing stuff, is no longer useful at all in the water levels. In fact, it's actually really become nerfed in the water levels, like extremely fucking nerfed. Which means that it's ultimately made essentially speedrunning this game a lot more of a different ballpark. It's made it a lot more of a complicated affair in that now you gotta kind of figure out, okay, what fucking vehicle do we actually go for then? And there is a backup vehicle. But yeah, for the PS1 version, obviously this vehicle is the gold standard for speedrunning. You use this vehicle and only this vehicle. And you've already pretty much seen the vehicle in question in the PS1 version when it came to my speedruns, the UFO. When we get over to that specific bit, trust me, you will notice the problem. Though, to be fair, while there are some things that have made things disadvantaged just on, like, you know, speedrun it, like the whole curve thing here on these little holes here, these little fucking tunnels, and of course, what they've done with the UFO, there are some things where they have inadvertently added more shortcuts and in a way, even skips. In fact, back in the PS1 version, they were a lot more strict about going out of bounds and such. Not so much the case in this version. Anyway, for the most part, I have won the first race. I was obviously going to win it because it's Bronze Cup, and even though the AI is also a bit more aggressive in this version compared to PS1, I have noticed it. Ultimately, it's not that big of a difference, at least to me, because Big Mama has always been my go-to vehicle, so for the most part, I am fine Big Mama. Also, I just want to make this very evident in this Let's Play, that years back, and this was many years back, when I did do RC Revenge, I did do Let's Play and everything like that. What's funny is that apparently, I was world record holder in pretty much all of the tracks for years. And for some of those tracks, if I just left it alone and never brought attention to it, I may have honestly been world record holder for 10 fucking years. That could have legitimately become a thing. I didn't do that. I instead brought attention to it, had a bit of a laugh, and then essentially the old moderator for that board got pissy with me for no good reason, really, and then fucked off after accepting all of my runs without checking any of them, really. They're all legit. Like, they use an old emulator, sure. They use PSX, which, you know, PSX Fin is no longer good, but they would still count as legacy speedruns, so ultimately, still valid. But, yeah, all that shit happened, and then I became the moderator of the board, and then, you know, I went for moderating the board for this game and such, and, you know, working with it and everything, and there's a whole fucking situation that occurred in regards to that, and it really sucks. It genuinely sucks. I honestly believe halted the speedrun scene of this game completely, and it just hurts to see. But hey, now we've done that one, it is now time for me to showcase to you the specific fucking kind of track where things become a problem. And as you can see, the game has already given us a hint with this loading screen. Yes, when it comes to the boats, they nerfed the absolute fuck out of the UFO of that one. And a lot of other vehicles as well. The UFO was able to just fly over this shit and stay at its exact same speed and everything. But now, oh no, it is hampered the fuck down. It is really heavily slowed down. Like, the UFO is honestly shittier than some of your starter vehicles, in fact. So, yeah, the developers tried to add a bit more of, you know, a little bit more of a fairness to, you know, the game and such, the UFO. They didn't want to be too cheap and such. But what they ultimately done is they made the UFO a worse vehicle overall in a lot of ways. And so people are now trying to utilize other vehicles to get around that shit. And it's interesting to see, I'll say that much. But this level in particular is interesting because in the PS1 version, all those crates on the left you saw there, they were all an invisible fucking wall. They were all just walled the fuck off, you couldn't do shit with it. In the PS2 version, they got rid of that wall, so you can now use that as a shortcut. Which is great, honestly, because now we have a brand new shortcut to use. That's fucking awesome. But it does showcase a bit of a precedence when it comes to... Essentially, they kind of got a bit loose, a bit too loose, in fact, when it came to the invisible walls. To the point where, at this point, you can go out of bounds. In certain levels, sure, but you can 100% go out of bounds. And what makes things even worse is that there are some bits where you can do a thing called teleport abuse, where you can go to a certain spot and you can use the teleport button and it just immediately brings you much more forward than it should and allow you to just skip shit. Now, to be fair, the teleport abuse is very, very rarely used. Like, there is a bit here in this level in particular that has it, but again, it's not that fast, and ultimately it fucks you over more than it helps you because you need speed. But there is that. Also, now we're going to the next level. So yeah, Big Mama still does good when it comes to the water levels. In fact, Big Mama, I think, remains fairly unchanged from its PS1 counterpart. I have tried a few of the other vehicles, and for the most part, some of the stats really do not make any sense. You know, some stats, when they have, like, really good turn, they are ultimately really shit. Sometimes very fucking loose, in fact. But the one thing I can give consistent for is the fact that Big Mama will forever have the best handling in the fucking game. It's amazing how overpowered Big Mama is when it comes to handling. Which, in this game, having really good handling is a fucking godsend. Okay? Especially when it comes to the races. Because you can be a slow motherfucker compared to some other vehicles with UFO and such. But the AI is so dumb when it comes to turns. In speed, oh, they can fucking outrun your ass. But in turns, in like, you know, being able to use shortcuts even, they're really just dumb. They really are just dumb. And because of that, you can abuse that and essentially use Big Mama to just essentially game end these fuckers. But eventually, if you go to speed on this game, then yeah, Big Mama is too slow in regards to it. Though, to be fair, Big Mama did a really good job at being the world record champion for quite a few tracks for some years. It is surprising how I had that world record for multiple tracks in this game for the time trial videos I did years back. And, yeah, I wasn't even trying to be, like, the ultimate best, you know? I was trying to beat the standard records for the most part, and that was it. And what's weird is that the world records that were held way back before I came, like, even I think back before when I came in fact, like, it was back in, like, not tomatoes.com, but that other website, I forgot the name of it, but the world records, quote unquote, for that one, all the times were worse than what the game has defaulted to for time trials. Which means the time trials were still the world record compared to what the guy was submitting, and he was the only guy that submitted any runs. So as you can see, me beating these records in this game, just completing them to actually unlock the vehicles, means I get a world record. Ultimately, when it comes to this shit. Obviously, it's complete bullshit. You know, there's probably some people way back before me even that has gotten, like, fucking mighty high scores, like high fucking times, like, compared to me back then. But when it came to the runners at question, it was just me. Like, it was just me at that time. And then people come in years later down the line to try and, like, get their own times going, and I never even knew about my times for the most part, because I was a fucking nobody and all. So, it surprises me that nobody actually bothered to check about the times that already existed. Maybe anyone that has actually done better than your times. Because I did put in time trials. I guess I didn't put in fucking speed runs though. But yeah, like, for the most part, that was my thing. And as a note, back then, my quote-unquote speed runs were called time trials. I didn't call them speed runs until sometime afterwards, really. I just called them time trials because, for the most part, I was just doing time trials, so I thought that made the most logical sense. But I could have called them speed runs, would have made it a bit more easier for people to find, I guess. But, yeah. As you can see, for the most part, these tracks have not really changed much, have they? Compared to the first level, which it had a bit of a difference in the geometry of some of the areas, here, like, nothing's really changed, but I will say it's become a lot more sickening to drive down here with the moving floor and the flashing arrows and such. It's hard to watch sometimes. It legitimately strains the eyes to actually, like, watch this pack and seeing that floor and shit. By the way, when it comes to the items, the weapons you have, they haven't really changed. They have changed in look, I'll say that much. But, I mean, an icon look, really. But when it comes to their use, they haven't really changed. I mean, the shield has changed a bit in look. It now gives you this sort of, this metal ulterior instead of having a shield around you. And yeah, I guess the rocket has changed a bit, but ultimately, a lot of it is the same. Like that move, it's the exact same as was in the PS1 version. It's like a red circle that expands. It's very easy to just keep that, really. And yeah, for the most part, that is essentially the whole gist of things. There's nothing else I can really bring up when it comes to RC Revenge normally compared to this game, like right now at least. This is basically what you're getting. And for the most part, it is a majority of the time graphical change. For the most part, you are getting the exact same track and the exact same cars. It's just, you're now getting a lot more of an animated world, I guess, especially here. Like, look at this place. It's a lot more fucking animated, a lot more cartoony. But, yeah, for the most part, it's a lot of the same shit. But, things do change when we get into our last race, because this track was our last race originally in the Bronze Cup. And when we did the PS1 version, once it didn't beat this fucking track, that was it. We then basically got first place, and we went and got the Silver Cup at that point, as well as a vehicle. Not the case when it comes to the PS2 version, because if that was the case, then, I mean, 20 minutes, I could, you know, throw in Silver Cup at that point, and show you a little bit longer, you know, 40 minutes, I guess, 50 minutes, who cares? But I could squeeze in 2 cups at that point. Not so when you forget that, you know, you don't want to forget this bit. We have Pirate World. We have new tracks now. We have this new world to explore. And we're going to be starting off with the first level of the Pirate World in the Bronze Cup, which I get to showcase to you as well as explain my thoughts on this level of Pirate World, because for the most part, these are cool looking areas. That being said, as tracks, they're kind of awkward. Also, the music is really fucking good. I think out of all the fucking music in RC Revenge Pro really did amp it the fuck up of the Pirate World tracks, because this song fucking kicks. I enjoy the tropical vibes. I really do like this song a lot. But there is a problem with me giving you the soundtrack, and I know for a fact I'm probably gonna end up having to mute some of this shit. Because, yeah, the musician for RC Revenge, bit of a cunt. Essentially, the music I have to now mute at times because of the fact that there is copyright in it. Now, YouTube will give you a copyright claim if you use the music in RC Revenge, which you wouldn't think this game would fuck you over, but the composer for this game, I don't know, I guess they wanted a few extra dollars, despite the fact it's really not worth it. But, I mean, hey, now I gotta deal with this with a niche fucking game, which for RC Revenge Pro is way more niche than RC Revenge, because RC Revenge is a lot more accessible and easier for you to play. And to be fair, I am playing this with an emulator, because I do want to follow with how I played RC Revenge, so I want to use an emulator, and so against my better judgment, I popped up PCSX2. To be fair, PCSX2 has gotten fundamentally massively better over the years compared to back then when I had such a fucking problem with it that I decided to never use it ever again and just fully stick with using actual console. But PCSX2 has gotten much better. I will admit that. Though, They do have a bit of a bad history at times, still. You know, a bit of a shady bullshit thing going on. Mainly of their results. It's not exactly the most accurate stuff. But, I mean, for the most part, the game plays well on PCSX2, so I thought, why not? I'm pretty much getting the exact same experience I would have gotten from the actual game here, so I'm cool with that. And honestly, PCSX2 is at a point now where it can be speedrun viable at this point. Not so much TAS viable, still not there yet, but speedrun viable for some games, yes, and I believe RC Revenge Pro is one of them. I feel like, for the most part, you're not really getting anything of a disadvantage playing from PCSX2. Plus, it makes speedrunning this game a bit more accessible to a lot of people, so there is that at the very least. Though, then we get the niche problem of not a lot of people know of Pro, because RC Revenge, fairly well known, to an extent at the very least, because it was sort of the sequel to Revolt. And Revolt was PS1, and didn't really get a revamped version like this one did. Whereas Pro, yeah, it had the enhancements and such, but how many people do you know of, like how many articles such have you found in regards to RC Revenge Pro compared to RC Revenge? You know? Anyway, this track was a little awkward, like that little jump at the end every time was really but for the most part, a fine level. It's better than some of the levels that were there since the beginning, to be fair. But hey, we won! Excellent! The same kind of finish, really. Nothing really changed here. But, now we get our Silver Cup and the Corporal, so that's pretty nice. But, yeah, the Corporal, I'm not using it. Just saying. However, next time, we are going to be doing Silver Cup with Big Mama, and we are definitely going to be kicking some ass. Okay? We are 100% going to be really, really kicking some fucking ass in this game. So thank you for watching, and I will see you all next time for the Silver Cup RC Revenge Pro.